For 27 years, I've worked 2 jobs to save for one thing, a piece of lakefront property where I could finally build the cabin my late father and I used to sketch together on Sunday afternoons. When I finally held that deed in my hands, tears streamed down my face. This wasn't just land. This was everything I'd ever dreamed of. The property was perfect. Crystal clear water, towering pines, and best of all, it sat just outside the homeowners association boundaries. Almont. Dues. No petty rules about what color I could paint my mailbox. Just freedom. But that dream turned into my worst nightmare faster than I could have imagined. 3 weeks after I started clearing brush for my cabin site, I heard voices on my property. I walked down to find 4 people standing on my shoreline, measuring distances and taking photos like they owned the place. "Excuse me," I called out, trying to stay friendly. "This is private property." A well-dressed man in his 50s turned around with the kind of smile that immediately put me on edge. "Oh, you must be the new owner." "I'm Rick Patterson, president of the Lakeview HOA. We need to discuss your building plans." My heart sank. "I appreciate the introduction, but my property isn't part of your association." Rick chuckled and shook his head like I was a confused child. "I'm afraid you're mistaken, friend. ALL lakefront properties fall under our jurisdiction. It's been that way for decades." I pulled out my deed, hands shaking slightly, not from fear, but from growing anger. "This legal document says otherwise." Rick barely glanced at it before, dismissing it with a wave. "Paperwork can be ... misleading. Trust me, I've been managing this community for 8 years. You'll need to submit your building plans to our architectural committee and start paying your monthly dues." $350, that's not happening, I said firmly. His friendly mask slipped completely. "We'll see about that." As they walked away, I heard one of the women whisper, "He seems difficult." What happened next felt like something out of a thriller movie, except this was my real life. First came the letter's official-looking documents, demanding everything from architectural fees to emergency assessments, each one more threatening than the last. They threw them in the trash where they belonged, but Rick was just getting started. Then one morning, I pulled into my driveway to find orange survey stakes driven into my property line running straight down to my waterfront. Professional-looking sign read, "Community Lake ACCESS Private HOA Property, Nitrogen Monoxide. Trespassing." I called the sheriff immediately. When Deputy Martinez arrived, even he looked shocked. "Sir, do you have documentation showing this area belongs to the HOA?" the deputy asked Rick, who had appeared within minutes. "Of course," Rick said smugly. "It's been community access for over a decade. This gentleman is new and doesn't understand our community standards." The deputy examined my deed and survey. After 20 minutes, he turned to Rick. "Sir, I need to see your legal documentation for this claim, because according to county records, this is entirely Mr. Johnson's property." Rick's face flushed red. "This is ridiculous. I've been president here for 8 years. I know what's community property and what isn't, and you should have no problem providing the legal proof." Deputy Martinez replied calmly. Rick stormed off without another word. But he left those stakes in my ground. That's when the real harassment began. Strangers started appearing on my property daily. People with cameras, people asking my neighbors questions about me, people accidentally blocking my driveway. My material deliveries kept getting canceled. Someone impersonating me was calling my contractors. The worst part was the emotional toll. Every day brought new stress, new violations of my peace. I came down to check on my dock after work and found my heart breaking all over again. Someone had torn out 2 sections of the wooden platform my son and I had built together the previous summer. Trash was scattered across my shoreline: beer, bottles, food wrappers, and worse. But it was the note tied to one of my dock posts that pushed me over the edge. "This community access area needs to remain clean and available to residents. Respect our rules or face the consequences." Lakeview HOA board. I sat on what remained of my dock and called my daughter Sarah, sobbing like I hadn't since her mother passed away. "Dad, what's wrong? You're scaring me." "They're destroying everything." "Honey, they're trying to steal your grandfather's dream right out from under us." "Who's they, Dad?" When I explained everything, Sarah's voice turned fierce. "Dad, you call a lawyer tomorrow morning. Don't you let these bullies take what you worked your whole life for. Grandpa would never forgive us if we didn't fight." Next morning brought the final insult. A letter from the HOA's attorney demanding surrender a 25-foot strip of my waterfront to the association or face a lawsuit and property lien 20-5 feet of my father's dream, of my life savings, of my children's inheritance. That afternoon, I made 2 phone calls that changed everything. The first was to attorney Margaret Chen, whose reputation for taking on bullies was legendary in our county. Second was to my old friend Mike Torres at the county assessor's office. "Mike," I said, "I need you to pull every single document related to Lakeview's property boundaries, everything, and I need it yesterday. What's going on, buddy? Someone's trying to steal my land, and I think they've been doing it to other people too." The truth Margaret Chen uncovered was even worse than I'd imagined. Not only did the HOA have zero legal claim to my property, but Rick Patterson had been systematically defrauding his own homeowners for years. County records showed he'd embezzled over $200,000 in HOA funds, using the money for his own home renovations while claiming it was for community improvements. The fake community access claim on my property, it was part of a larger scheme to increase property values for his own lakefront home by claiming the association controlled more waterfront than it actually did. When we presented this evidence to the court, the judge's reaction was swift and decisive. "Mr. Patterson," Judge Williams said, her voice cutting through the courtroom, "in 30 years on this bench, I have rarely seen such a blatant attempt at property theft combined with embezzlement of community funds. Your actions have harmed not only Mr. Johnson, but every homeowner who trusted you." Rick, for the first time, had nothing to say. The court's ruling was everything I could have hoped for. All HOA claims on my property were permanently dismissed. Rick was ordered to personally pay my legal fees. Over $45,000 he was banned from serving on any HOA board ever again. The association was placed under court supervision until new honest leadership could be elected. Criminal charges were filed for embezzlement, but sweetest victory came 6 months later. I was sitting on the new dock. My son and I had rebuilt, watching my granddaughter catch her first bass, when Sarah sat down beside me. "You know what Grandpa would say if he could see this?" she asked. "What's that, sweetheart?" "He'd say, 'You did good, Dad. You didn't let them win.'" As the sun set over the water that day, I realized something important. This was never just about the land. It was about standing up to bullies who think they can take whatever they want from honest, hardworking people. Rick Patterson lost everything: his position, his reputation, his home, and ultimately his freedom when the criminal charges resulted in a 2-year sentence. And me, sitting here in the cabin I built exactly the way Dad and I dreamed it, watching my grandkids grow up on this beautiful lake, knowing that sometimes, just sometimes, the good guys really do win. Asterisk.